India, first story for you? Was that your first story?
It was my second.
Second, that was pretty good. So I'm really only up here because I'm a journalism professor, and Jim was desperately in need of people to tell stories, and he's coming to my class on Monday. And I really owe him big time, so here I am. So, is there a single person in this room that has more than 8 siblings? Anybody? How many?
9.
9. Wow. Would you like to come up here and share your story with me? I'm sure we could occupy 5 minutes. Okay. So I beat you by 1. I'm the oldest of 11, and yeah, as you well know, life in a Roman Catholic family of 11 is pretty chaotic. Yes. So. So this is about that extra special moment or time in my parents' life when things got way chaotic. So my mom was probably around the age of 50, and the last one, my brother Matt, who's 20 years younger than me, was finally in school, and my mom went to this church gathering with a surprisingly liberal Roman Catholic priest in our neighborhood in Ambler, and he was trying to recruit families to open their homes for a group of very radical Roman Catholic pacifists called the Plowshares 8. And my mom had been through the war in Holland and lost a brother and a sister when the Americans bombed her hometown and trying to drive the Nazis out of Holland. And so she was pretty receptive, to trying to help these pacifists. And she came home to talk to my dad about it. My dad, this was 1980, and my dad had just voted for Ronald Reagan and had served in the Navy, and he heard that my mom wanted to open the home to some people that might be coming to this trial in Norristown. And he said, absolutely not. We're not having these radical Christians come into our home to disrupt our family. And there were still about 4 or 5 of my siblings at home, and they all went, oh, come on, Dad, what's wrong with you? Let Mom have her day. And they were all thinking, God, this might be a really good way for us to get out of the house for a couple days. So my dad relented, and about a week later, one of the defendants in the Plowshares 8 called my mom and said, Mrs. Bauerlein, we understand you have a really large home. There were 7 bedrooms in my mom and dad's house in Ambler, and we would really, would like, if you don't mind, if we could stay with you and your husband while we're on trial. So now my mom had to come back and tell my dad, it's not just supporters that are going to talk to, that are going to stay with us. It really is the defendants themselves. And my dad went crazy again. Of course not. No, of course not. The FBI is going to be tapping our lines. And yeah, they were tapping our lines. But eventually he caved, and the Plowshares 8 came, and they stayed with my mom and dad and for about 2 weeks while they were on trial. And 2 of them were Dan and Phil Bergen, and they were mesmerizing, amazing people. That what they had done was they walked into the General Electric plant. If any of you have been up to the movie theater, to the King of Prussia Theater, it's directly across the street from there, and they poured their own blood. They went. This was a place where they designed nuclear components to weapons, and they poured their own blood on weapons plans, and they all had ball-peen hammers, and they crowded around a little titanium nose cone, and they were making a racket, banging on it, and eventually they were arrested and they went on trial. And my mom got very swept up in this cause, and after about a year or 2 of thinking about pacifism, she decided to do a similar action at the Groton, Connecticut submarine base where they build nuclear submarines, and she too was arrested, and she too had to go on trial. And I can't even begin to tell you the chaos that happened in my family. Half of us were very supportive of my mom, and the other half were born-again Christians that had married vets, and they were extremely upset with my mom. My mother's own brothers and sisters were telling my dad, "Why can't you control Agnes? What's wrong with you? Why can't you keep her in the home submissive and doing what you want her to do as your wife?" And my dad said, "Look, I'm really sorry. She really believes in this. You know, she's trying to save the world. And God bless her, she was." And my mother, after doing a couple of months of jail time, came back and was told they would commute her sentence if she could do some public service in Philadelphia, because the judge knew that she had a large Catholic family with kids at home, and she found Sister Mary Scullion, who's in charge of Project Home in Philadelphia. And God bless Sister Mary Scullion. My mom did 2 months of helping to refurbish buildings, giving them to the homeless, and when she was done her time, Sister Mary Scullion said, "Agnes, please go out and break the law and come back to us." Jim, I'll see you on Monday.
Chuck, everybody. I think that's where